Good morning and welcome to Asia Society. Hope you're all doing well. My name is Philipp Ivanov and I'm the CEO of Asia Society Australia. Welcome to the Asia Briefing Live 2020, our annual executive forum taking the pulse of Asian politics and economy and Australia's engagement with the region. To open our forum, it's my great pleasure to welcome a very special guest, Tim Pallas MP, Treasurer of Victoria, Minister for Economic Development and Minister for Industrial Relations in Andrew's Labor government, and a member for Werribee. Treasurer, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. What is Victoria's plan for economic recovery, and where does Victoria's engagement with Asia sit in this plan?
Well, thanks very much, Philip, and thank the Asia Society for inviting me to speak here today. I suppose one of the most important things that we need to recognise in these uncertain times is that economic recovery will occur, and it's vitally important that we make sure that we preserve the economic architecture of the community, as well as, of course, fight the pandemic event. So very much at the moment, as we speak, the Victorian Government is focusing on helping those parts of our economy that are doing it tough make that step across from the current uncertain times so that they can survive and thrive as the recovery starts to take hold. So we're very much in economic survival. Unfortunately, we still expect things to get worse before they get better, and we expect to see unprecedented falls in economic activity over the next 6 months. This is far worse than the global financial crisis, and we've seen nothing like it in the post-war era, and perhaps with the exception of the 90s recession, but I'm thinking that the way this is playing out is looking quite appreciably worse at the moment. Modelling by my department, the Department of Treasury and Finance here in Victoria, predicts about a 14% decline in the size of the Victorian economy over the next 6 months, and that up to 270,000 Victorian jobs will be lost over this period. So before we get to recovery, we need to focus entirely on supporting Victorians through to the other side. That's why last month the government announced a $1.7 billion economic survival and jobs package aimed to inject money into the Victorian businesses and to support workers impacted by the lockdown requirements back into jobs. As part of the package, we provided payroll tax refunds to Victorian SMEs, and we've already refunded more than $442 million to 17,200 businesses to help them through these difficult and challenging times. I suspect that the challenge for us as we move forward will be to recognise that these contributions will need to be augmented. We've already established a $500 million business support fund to help the hardest hit sectors, including hospitality, tourism, accommodation, arts and retail. Already over 11,000 grants have been paid out to businesses that desperately need it. We've also placed over 2,000 Victorians who were already out of work due to the virus and the social distancing requirements into new jobs through our Working for Victoria initiative. So these Victorians are out there now delivering care packages, cleaning public areas and working phone lines and providing a vitally important service to the community at this difficult time. We've also waived liquor licences, we've deferred taxes and committed $500 million to support residential and commercial tenants and landlords. Of course, planning work is well underway to spur and support Victoria's economy to bounce back. We're not simply dealing with the enormity of the challenges that confront this state in terms of economic survival. We all have to turn our minds and our attention to what positive contribution we can make in terms of the inevitable economic upswing that will occur. And that will bring with it attendant opportunities for those who are well placed and well prepared. So we've put aside an additional $24.5 billion in emergency funding to fight coronavirus, to support jobs, and to set Victoria up to recover from the pandemic event over the next 2 years. The Governor of the Reserve Bank, the Prime Minister, the Premier, and others have said that we need all levels of government working on the recovery together. And that means working together to pick up the slack in the economy by building productivity enhancing infrastructure. As you might have noticed, we're already had a committed pipeline through our big build. In fact, we are more than tripling the long-term average investment on infrastructure year on year in this state at the moment. And that pipeline will have to get bigger. It will continue to grow, and it will demonstrate our confidence in the opportunity that the economic upswing will proffer to the Victorian economy. So just a few days ago, we announced the Building Victoria's Recovery Task Force, which will investigate planning and investment opportunities to boost Victoria's building and development industry over the short, the medium and the long term.
Thank you, Treasurer. You mentioned some of the key Asia-exposed industries that Victoria is excellent at, like international education and tourism and major events. Unfortunately, all these industries have been hit very hard because of the travel restrictions. What's your plan to support our universities, our tourism operators, and major events providers?
International education, for example, is a hugely important part of Victoria's social, cultural and economic fabric. And it's important that we recognise that international students have paid a very substantial contribution, not only to the economic well-being of the state, but also to the diversity and cultural vitality of our state. It's a service that we need to recognise and we need to repay going forward, and to help them through these difficult times, as we'll need to help our university and our TAFE sectors. So in addition to the services we already provide international students, the Victorian Government continues to work with those universities, TAFEs and other education providers to understand how we can support international students in this challenging time and also into the future. I expect that we'll have more to say about that in coming days. The virus and associated travel bans are also severely affecting the Victorian tourism major events industries, dramatically compounding the effects of the recent bushfires, particularly in some of our tourism destinations in the east of the state and the northeast of the state. So many tourism and events related businesses are facing critical viability challenges, especially given the significant booking cancellations required to support our health response to the crisis. I think it'll be critical that our trade relationships continue to be fostered over this period of shutdown, and fundamentally, though the best things that we can do to revive these industries is to continue to protect lives and defeat the virus. That'll give us options coming out of this health event, and it will give us the opportunity to recharge our economy domestically, and also to recognise that we have a lot of work to do, both in terms of tourism and international education, major events. But that work can only start once we've demonstrated that we're well and truly in control of the health event, and certainly all the signs are looking very good here in Victoria.
Thank you, Treasurer. Our community of members and supporters, some of the leading Australian and global businesses, as well as universities, actively engaging with Asia. What is your message to them? How can they help Victoria bounce back?
Well, how quickly and how effectively we rise to the challenges we face will, quite frankly, define how well the Victorian economy bounces back. We see this as a generational defining event. This will demonstrate our character to the future and our willingness to make the necessary adjustments to the way our economy operates and the way that we interact with the rest of the world. We're working to preserve long-term vitality, and in so doing, we don't compromise opportunities for future generations along the way. That means we need to grow our economy today, make the right choices about what that growth means, and every business, every organisation, every Victorian will play a big part in that. The road to recovery will no longer be as quick as many would have expected. We anticipate that this event will run for quite some time. The magnitude of the downturn, meaning that Victoria will likely record negative economic growth in both the financial year 1920 and 2021. However, our government is committed to boosting the state's international engagement and competitiveness and encouraging businesses to drive exports and grow jobs. In 2019, 6 of our state's top 10 trading partners were in Asia, with two-way trade with China valued at about $30.7 billion alone, and exports to countries such as Japan and Singapore have increased quite dramatically in recent years. The Asia Society community will play a huge role in reviving and hopefully eventually growing these trends. There is a great opportunity for us to leverage and build on these economic and cultural relationships as we look to the future. So my message really to all in the community is that this is a challenge of our time, and this is a moment that will define us. Together, in all of the efforts that we make and all of the energy we devote to recovery, we will chart a path out of this crisis, and we will be even stronger than before.
Treasurer, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us today. And can I also, on behalf of our members and supporters from Australia and across our global network, thank you for your decisive response and leadership in this crisis, and also to the Victorian Government. Thank you for your ongoing support of Asia Society and our mission. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Philip.